in that same conversation, instead of getting caught up in the panic and the fear of the whole moment, zoom out to 6 months, zoom out to 12 months. And in particular for us, zoom out to compare this year to 2019 or 2018. And all of a sudden, those arrows, I don't know what's more green than green.
Let's go. Okay, so hello and welcome to the very first episode of our podcast. No, I say very first. Expect it to be held together with a bit of spit and sawdust, but allow us some mistakes. What we're here to do is speak to Paul. My name's Jason, and Astra as well will be going through discussing mostly things relating to return on investment and marketing. But we'll be playing around with a couple of different themes, and you may even laugh at some point. That would be an objective of ours for this. We're going to keep it fairly short, 30 minutes. We're going to just focus on, what is the burning challenges for marketers at the moment, and yeah, let's kick it off. So we'll start off just with introductions. My name is Jason. I'm the marketing manager at Web Presence. I've been doing it for 6 years. I've known what I've been doing for 4 years. Astra is I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Astra. I'm the digital advertising manager at Web Presence. So I do all things social media and digital ads, but I've got a more colourful background in that I am quite used to presenting, having been a television journalist for a short, brief period. So very comfortable on the podcast scene.
And Astra never mentions that she was once a journalist.
No, I don't bring it up at all.
Never comes up.
No, I don't think.
And we're joined today by Paul in quite an internal affair, an internal Christmas party podcast. Paul, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Paul. I'm one of the directors here at Web Presence. I've been here for 7 years as director, 8 years maybe, but Web Presence itself is just about to turn 18 years old. So technically old hat in the digital world.
Oh, we better take Web Presence out for its first legal drink.
Exactly.
So why have we started a podcast? We thought that there weren't enough white people talking on the audio network, so we decided to add one more. Our core values are about adding value, being transparent in our marketing. And in the name of those principles, this podcast was born as part of our own marketing strategy. So we're here to network, we're here to build our client list, or just to be honest, and have good chats with people that we like. And that's kind of what's started this. The format will be fairly introductory in terms of finding out a little bit about Paul and what he's interested in at the moment as our first guest. We'll then move on to a Say That Stat, which is affectionately named. Finally, we'll end up with an algorithm or anagram. I always confuse them.
An analogy. Neither.
We'll finish off with an analogy for marketing, where we pick a word out of a random word generator and create a marketing analogy that's relevant to the topics discussed. So I'll start off with asking someone who I know quite well questions like I don't know them very well. Paul, before, I'm not going to pretend we haven't had a conversation about this, but at the moment, what do you think is the burning issue that just in your day-to-day that you're seeing our clients deal with, or maybe you can just talk about your biggest pain or challenge, as open as that sounds.
Yeah, well, I mean, if I had to pick just one this year, it's not the easiest pick, but I think uncertainty has been the theme of the year. So we've done this a long time. We know how important it is to plan for the long term, right? You have to invest some things at the start, see long-term gains. But when everything's shifting around the way it is, we don't know where people are going to be in a month or two. As this has been recorded, it's a very unpredictable time leading into Christmas. So that's probably been the burning issue of the year. How do you plan long term when you have no idea what the long term looks like?
Yeah, and how does that trickle through into real life examples? Have you seen clients kind of back out things at the last minute? Is that affecting people managing month by month, like almost as if paycheck to paycheck in terms of how they spend? Are people not thinking big? Like how does that affect you?
Do you know what? There's no one. Everyone's a little bit different, but suffering from the same problem in their own ways. So the biggest one I'd say has been a burning issue for business owners or people leading teams. If you're kind of in a senior position, there'll be two things that I think most people will resonate with. So if you sell products, if you carry stock, the change in seasonal trends from 2019 and previously, and 2020 and 2021 now, has been a nightmare, which I'll talk on more in a second. But equally, if you like us, you provide a service and it's people are your product almost, the time they spend on it, recruitment has been really tough for everybody. You know, that lack of uncertainty I mentioned, it hits on both sides, because even if you know you have the budget and the need for a new member of staff, it's not easy to place good people in good positions right now. So both sides, and stock. So if you carry stock, I can share a story that's quite current from a few of our clients. So we work with a number of people who they're kind of in the home improvement industry, but not really. So if people are spending money on upgrading the house or garden, these guys are busy. That's kind of the niche they're in. And for a few of them, we've worked with them for 12, 13 years. So we know their business is back and front. We know it better than they do from the marketing side. And for the whole time we've worked together, up until 2019, they follow the same seasonal trend every year. It's bigger and smaller, but things pick up around March. It stays steady through the summer. And then September, October, everything kind of explodes. And then you trickle down to Christmas. So that's been the pattern for a decade, at least for these guys. But what we saw in 2020, is just a totally different pattern. It doesn't really matter what the pattern was. It peaked in April, May, and then it was still great, but it trickled all the way down to Christmas from there. There was no kind of like third quarter bash that happened for them. But because everyone was trapped at home, there was nothing else to spend your money on but upgrading your house, right? It was fine because they were doing double what they'd done the previous year anyway. So who cares about the seasonal trends? But this year we saw a perfect storm, especially if you carry stock, not so much if you have people. But earlier on in the year, I can't remember exactly when this was now, but lockdowns happened, Brexit happened, container prices went up 10 times, something like that.
Can't forget all about the Suez Canal blockage.
The Suez Canal decided to go on strike. So businesses spent a good period of time without stock, turning down new business because they literally couldn't deliver on the product while paying through the nose for it. So that happened earlier in the year. And then you can see what's going to happen here is that you're used to a peak in September, October. You've been starved of stock all year. So when your supplier calls you and says, yeah, what do you want? You order 3 containers, not 1, and fill up. Which all sounds good, sensible business. Everyone's doing the job, except the peak you've just purchased all that stock for doesn't arrive. It happened back in May when you didn't have the stock. So that's been one of the really interesting discussions we've had, is that this perfect storm's happened. You're carrying tons and tons of stock in some cases, but the market's not there, and we're dwindling down to Christmas now where people don't spend so much money on there. That's, I think, the biggest issue. That sparked some of the most interesting conversations we've had the last couple of months.
Yeah, and I think that obviously hurts people's return on investments because, as you say, due to external circumstances, the price of warehousing has gone up, the price of bringing your container has gone up, the price of storing that container has gone up, the price of getting it through customs and borders has gone up. So they're spending even more money on the same amount of stock as they used to, doubling up, and then paying for it to sit in a warehouse before that peak hits again. And it just ends up, like you say, perfect storm. Clients are unhappy, their customers are unhappy, they go to the competitors who have got stock, and it's just, I mean, I don't see an end to this in 2022, I don't think. I think it will continue for quite some time, like you say, until the uncertainty evens out. Yeah, but yeah, it's been definitely a challenge internally for us, not only to manage the clients' expectations from what we can achieve with the platforms that we use for their advertising, but also in what they're likely to get out of their business this year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, completely. So that was why I thought this would be worth talking about, because we're not passive here, right? This isn't just happening to our clients. Like, this is partly our job. So things have changed, goalposts have moved. How do we react to it? Because our clients are brilliant business owners. They know how to run their own businesses, but they're not necessarily marketing experts. So as well as actually like delivering the services, running the ads and doing the stuff, the guidance we give them and those conversations we have, a day or two before the quote goes out are probably something that I imagine most business owners would like to hear. So I have a couple I can share that were real calls, that I think all three of us have been on.
Yeah.
Which one of the first ones that we've had multiple times was, don't panic, change.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we've put loads of effort into a strategy, the long-term vision. We've sat in rooms together and discussed what it is we're doing and where we're going. But now you've got a bad cash flow month, right?
Yeah.
So we take that call and they say, change this ad budget, turn this thing off. Let's move on to that channel. And we it's very easy to slip off into just being reactive all of a sudden,
mm-hmm.
and lose that vision on the strategy we put together. All that investment gone into it just gets thrown out. So probably, difficult but interesting conversations that we've had is on advising people when do we pivot and when do we stick with the strategy and just let's just get through it. It's not a long-term problem.
As you say, though, even those long-term strategies are sort of in question now. We've been using algorithms and automation for 10 years for some of these clients. The algorithms learn when to show the ads, where to place them, that kind of thing. And then actually now, because the market itself has shifted, even the algorithm's kind of learning again. So in terms of their stock's gone up, the price of the warehousing's gone up, but also the price of their cost per acquisition's going up because the market's getting more saturated at different times. So it's definitely having a knock-on effect on multiple online platforms, I think. So
it is. Yeah, just on a B2B sense as well, like in terms of the politics of how you spend budget, the uncertainty and indecision obviously pauses everything. So that was often the first thing that's cut is marketing budgets. So if something has to be cut because we don't know what's going to happen next month or next year or in the next 6 months, it will be the marketing budget. So let's keep the marketing budget. A lot of clients, I think, have kept that marketing budget up until this point. And then in November and December, how many campaigns have we put together in that time period where it's just been like, right, we've got money to spend, let's go. We've got, whatever it is, and you are like reacting. You're not building a whole campaign where you're looking at the awareness stage, consideration stage, how you convert them and how you retarget them.
Mm-hmm.
You're just pushing out, okay, I've got a spare 5-10 grand, let's do it. And that's just not going to get you the best results, is it? It's just
not a sustainable way to market either. None of this is sustainable though, is it? I mean, these high costs of bringing in stock and then storing them over the winter and all that kind of stuff. So
no, it'll need time to adapt. But the advice we've given, that's the cool bit. So we all know, anybody who works in marketing knows that any advice you give out, if it doesn't rhyme, it's not worth it. It doesn't count as real advice. So the advice is, if in doubt, zoom out. Okay, that's the advice we've given. We've given much longer and more boring explanations to our clients, but that's the advice. I think I've stolen that from people who trade on the stock market and get panicked about dips. But it's the same concept, right? So we've all taken calls and emails and had meetings on that week where all the arrows turned red. All right, but it's a week, and everyone in our office knows it's just a red week. Don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. But that's what sparked these conversations to panic change, right? And go spend money inefficiently. We know we're not adding as much value as we could do. So if in doubt, zoom out, I think is really good advice, because of the conversations we've had with clients, if we look at this week, this month, maybe even this quarter, not great in some cases. Lots of people are great, but sometimes not great. And that naturally sparks a conversation of we need to change. Something needs to change because these results aren't where they need to be. But in that same conversation, instead of getting caught up in the panic and the fear of the whole moment, zoom out to 6 months. zoom out to 12 months, and in particular for us, zoom out to compare this year to 2019 or 2018, and all of a sudden those arrows, they I don't know what's more green than green, but they're big up and right. You know what I mean? Everything's moving in the right direction. So with kind of, longer term marketing methods in mind, I think right now the advice is to zoom out and look at a longer period of time and just let those peaks and troughs smooth themselves out. That's been the number one thing we've told people, and it's paid off. It's two years in now. Everyone's doing good, I think is fair to say.
Yeah. That's a really good, memorable suggestion, actually.
It rhymes, so it ticks all the boxes.
It speaks volumes that my mind instantly just went to, oh, he means get them on a Zoom call, because the amount of times we've done that. That sums up the uncertainty of the year, I think. The fact that Zoom has replaced, online video calling has replaced the actual definition of Zoom, so...
Yeah, there's just to finish off this segment, we've gone over a bit, which is good news for sure. We try and ask the same questions to everyone, which is probably one of those questions where you think, oh, there's no right answer, but I'm going to force an answer. Is can you rank the next 4 marketing activities that I suggest to you? So and from being most important and one that you value the most to least important. So we've got PPC, so Google Ads, social media, just organic, email marketing, and SEO. Where would you rank those?
Where would I rank it? Do I need to rank them and give an explanation? So
yeah,
I think I would put search engine optimization on top.
Yeah.
So that's organic, Google, people searching for you and finding you. I'd put email marketing at number 2.
Yeah.
PPC at number 3, and social media at 4. So the reason being,
oh God, my job's on the line.
Yeah, if you take anything away from this podcast, it's ads. Don't worry about them. No, but the reason being, SEO is really intent based, right? So it's not the same as putting your brand up on a billboard. People are looking for your product or service when they find you. So the efficiency rate of somebody clicking on your listing to coming through to you is really high, and I think people need that right now. So organic's good. Email, I'm putting it second because with changes to tracking behavior and GDPR and I think there's going to be a much bigger focus on owned audiences, having your own audience that you nurture and look after and tap into instead of constantly going out for new business. And PPC and social media, absolutely necessary, not going anywhere. But I had to pick a 3 and 4.
Oh, it's good to know.
But I maybe said that as well, because that social media includes organic and paid, didn't it? I didn't get that.
Yeah, you can define it as PPC though, I think, as well. It kind of straddles both of them. So
true. I guess what you would say before, and I got it completely right. So points for me for knowing.
Excellent. Well, I don't know where our scorecard is, but I'll there.
And then on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in your current marketing strategy, which is a direct feedback loop to my performance? So,
oh yeah, like a
open podcast 1-to-1 now.
No, I'm going to say 7 or 8. 7. I have to pick a number 8. I won't straddle. I'd say 7. I'm 100% confident in our strategy. The 7 is just because we don't know what the next year looks like. I imagine we'll have to pivot as we go. So I'll stick with 7.
And what's the most important factor in improving that score?
Data, analytics. It's anybody who says they know what's coming this next year is a liar. So having as much data as we can so we can make sensible, not opinion-based decisions on what to do going forward, that's number 1.
I was just laughing at the fact that Ashton wooed
data. Look, you tell people you work in data, it's not very sexy. People don't like it that much, so you got to cheer yourself on, right? Somebody's got to
be your own cheerleader. Absolutely. So that's we're flying through our kind of half-hour segment, and we'll move on to the next piece. I don't know if you want to go through that one, Astra. Let's say that stat.
Yeah. So say that stat. This is a segment. I mean, born off the whooping for data and the love of it. in that we communicate as marketers so often in numbers and figures and percentages. So we figured, why not stick with what we're good at and make it fun? In a panel show style, I've got a statistic which relates to ROI. I'm going to give you the statistic and you have to come up with an idea as to what it might represent. So I think it was 48% is the statistic.
48%.
48%.
That is, I know this one. It's how much of your conversations about data that Jason understands.
I would say that is a fair assessment.
How much of our time is tracked as an agency?
Also true.
Ouch. All right, the mood just shifted lower for me.
Okay, so if I told you that it was relevant to confidence, would that help you?
Confidence. No.
So it's
where was it done? What was the kind of study like?
It was a study done by HubSpot.
Okay.
So how many people are tracking? How many businesses are tracking how they're performing? They've got good tracking stats.
Ooh, you're getting hotter, but no.
The percentage of marketing professionals who know what's generating their leads.
Also close.
Also close.
One more bash.
I can't think of anything that's not a joke.
That's fine. Get them out there.
No, you're gonna have to put us out of our misery.
Yeah, go on.
Okay, so when asked how confident marketeers are on making budgeting decisions that invest in programs that influence revenue, only 48% said they were somewhat confident. So not even confident, just somewhat confident.
Just somewhat confident.
That ties into what we were saying earlier. I think so many decisions are made, especially around budget, on not getting fired.
Yeah.
So you don't want to lose the marketing budget for next year, so you've got to spend it, and therefore you won't get fired. You don't want to put your name to a campaign that sucks and doesn't have any return on investment, because then you might get fired. But this fear-based approach kind of doesn't lend itself to the best decisions a lot of the time, because it's inaction. Slow inaction is much more likely to keep you in your job if just explained away in the monthly meeting than a kind of confidence and testing things out and just going for it. It's actually probably one of the worst issues, I think, for marketing, is that most people don't want to try things because if it looks wrong and you're in a bad month anyway and you just upset someone, that could be what does it.
You're so right,
Yeah.
you know, and I wrote an article this week on, and Astra had the pleasure of editing it. Thank you again, by the way. But it was on sending email newsletters, and what's the point if you don't have a goal from it? But what you're saying there, that kind of having to be accountable. If you're a marketing manager and your boss is going to give you that 10 minutes to prove your worth to the company, or your head's on the chopping block, you're going to do the safe things. You're not going to take risks and find something new and amazing. So you're going to send your email newsletters out on a Tuesday, regardless of what you've got to say or how useful it is. But just because I'm in marketing, I've got to tick these tasks off.
Yeah.
So basically, only half of them are even somewhat confident about what they're doing going forward. That's a nightmare. What do you do? You need to talk to your marketing staff about that, right?
Yeah, and that ties into, again, the whole uncertainty. Like, people are even less willing to take risks right now because they don't know if they're going to get budget, how much budget they're going to get, if they've got a customer base, you know, if those customers are going elsewhere to competitors who have stock, that kind of thing. So I would suggest that if we check that stat again in 2022, it'd be interesting to see how much that confidence has dipped or peaked.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, really, because I know we feel it, right? I literally started this talking about uncertainty, but to actually get the figures on it is quite surprising, isn't it? You just think it's a handful of your clients, but that sounds wide-reaching.
And 5 minutes to left. 5 minutes.
Okay, we've got time for a quick analogy, a quick strategy analogy.
Have we got the analogy?
So
okay.
We've already prefaced this by saying we're going to pick a random word generator, and the guest / us have to come up with an analogy relating to that word to do with ROI. So, Jason, do you want to pull up the random word generator, or the web presence hat, as I think we'll call it moving forward?
Yeah. So I've selected nouns. I won't show it on screen because I don't want to show you the amount of tabs that are currently open. And I actually did it just now, so I've had like a few minutes to think about it. The word that's come up is farmers. I haven't thought of one yet, but farmers. That's the word. We're trying to think of how that could possibly relate to marketing and return on investment. All analogies are welcome. This came about, by the way, I'm just going to speak while Paul thinks of one. This came about from a common occurrence when you're speaking to Paul about anything, really anything, is he'll summarize it with about 2/3 into the conversation. He'll go, it's like a car, right? Or it's like when you're climbing a mountain. You're like, right, sit back. This is gonna be good. This is gonna be interesting. I bet he'll find a way to actually make it work quite well, and explain it in those terms that we understand as mere mortals. So that's kind of what we're doing here. Like, how can farming relate to it? Anyone got anyone?
I've got it. I've got one. Okay. I think. Of course it is.
Of course you
do. I don't know. Is this an analogy, or am I just going to rant? It'll be some mix of the two.
And we'll tell you whether or not it's good enough. Okay.
So what I want to leave you feeling is that if farmers can do it, you can do it too, right? But let me expand on that because
farmers are well known.
Sorry to our farming audience.
Because one of the most common challenges we have in getting data. So we all know in this room, data's king. All of our experience, all of our effort, education goes out the window when you've got good data, right? We don't need it. Data does everything. And the reason people don't do it is because they think it's too complicated. They don't have the tech. They're not a high-tech company. They don't need this data. But if you look at what farmers do when they oddly enough, Astra, you told me this a while back, but I think it was off Clarkson's farm. The dates they put it in, how much they order in advance, the exact process they follow, and the effect that's going to have on their yield and their profits that they make off the back of it. That's all decided way in advance. And I don't think you picture farming as a high-tech technical industry, and it's not in a lot of cases, but they run on data, not on hard work. Well, actually, they do as well, all of that. But
again, apologies to the farming community.
I'm so sorry. But that's going to be my analogy. So set up your marketing campaigns like our farmer does. Get it all planned in advance. Get your projections ready. Use historic data to know what you're supposed to do in advance, and then stick with the plan. Put it through, because once you've planted it, you're done. You have to wait to see what the results are going to be.
Yeah, that works.
How's that for the first analogy?
Yeah, it's a good start.
I think that went well. I was trying to think about something to do with sheepdogs and herding all of your marketing channels, and it's a bit spread out sometimes. It's a little bit chaotic, but you've just got to herd them all into that same. There's 2 tiny goalposts, and it takes perseverance. A bloody good team, like a really loud voice.
You're like visually picturing like the marketing funnel and how you push them in. Yeah,
that's a good one. That's not where I was going. You definitely finished that better than I did. But I was going for more of everything is chaos and you have to just herd them in, you know?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I like the marketing funnel is a much better one. For sure.
There's also like all of your eggs in one basket type thing, whereby no farmer will just farm one particular crop because that area of the field gets ruined and his livelihood is at risk. I've only seen one episode of the Clarkson thing, just so I could stay with my finger on the pulse of culture. But I do think, I'm pretty sure that that they'll have a couple of different crops or animals. It's a hard word to remember. And so, I guess in the same way marketers do that, right? Because you don't just want to kind of live or die by an email campaign. You should have an email campaign, sure, but in there'll be links that take them to the page, and you know now that those people that have been to those pages maybe should be retargeted because they're kind of a little bit further down that marketing flow. So And maybe you need more people to fill those retargeting audiences. So you try a bit of just paid advertising in terms of Google ads, or so you try and you plant lots of different seeds, and you might find that no one clicked anything from the email marketing. You didn't get the copyright or whatever, but that's fine because your Google ads picked up quite a few leads, and that's why you should have a full inbound campaign. It's not just about doing one of those things in the last month of the year because you've got the budget. Or even though that can still move the needle a little bit, it's about doing different parts of it so that you can have a nice Christmas turkey with your family at Christmas. Look at that. What a finish as we come to 30 minutes and 18 seconds of the podcast.
It feels a little bit like cultural appropriation for 3 office types to be talking about the farming industry and getting
like
our
we
hands
know what we're
dirty.
doing.
It feels so wrong.
Yeah, that is true. And I think I definitely know of farmers who just do one animal and don't do anything else as well. So as I was talking, I was realising how poor that is. But hey, we had to just freestyle it. And we definitely didn't practice any of that. So yeah. Okay, cool. Let's finish off then. Just Paul, just talk about, if you can, a little bit about web presence. What makes web presence different? And or if maybe you're going on a run and you need sponsorship, just what would you plug right now? What would you push? What's your next thing that you're passionate about?
Do you know what, plug? If you run a business that helps your customers solve problems, so if they're going to search on Google for help with something or other, and that's what your business does, you might want to talk to us. That's the kind of customer that does well with web presence. But what I'll plug right now, the team here, Jason, led to create a B2B scorecard. So it takes 2 minutes to do. It's just a few questions that you have to run through, but it will give you a personalized report on each of the 6 stages we kind of monitor our clients on. It'll give you a personalized report of where you might be able to improve on one of those 6 stages. Should give you some really actionable points to go at. You can talk to us further about it if you like, if you need some kind of more detailed advice. That's probably the most useful thing we can give to business owners at the minute.
Like it, mate. You see, your plug was me. That's good.
It's basically don't worry about me, talk to Jason.
So the 2 takeaways from this podcast are plug in Jason and my job's on the line. So I think on those notes, we'll round off while I go and grovel downstairs.
Thanks for listening, guys. Thank you for listening to our first podcast, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye.
Bye.